Hello everyone, welcome back to Recycling Station. Today we will work together to repair broken things again. What we want to restore is a 1950s air compressor. The small air compressor was abandoned a long time ago. Its main function is to spray paint. In the past, there were no more modern machines. It is very wonderful and helps us a lot, perhaps due to the working environment. Its appearance resembles an inkjet printer. One layer of paint. This layer of paint can also protect the workpiece very well. The entire small air compressor needs to be used. It needs to be combined with a motor. And this engine is also the original engine. So now, we plug it in. See if it can be started. It's a pity that I can't move. There's definitely something wrong with the engine. So let's start dismantling it now. You can just see the screw. The hole is a specially shaped screw hole. Now take out the screwdriver. Replace with a square screwdriver head. The next step is to place this screw. Remove smoothly. After disassembling, you can order air compressor with. The base plate is completely separate. Can be seen. There are many sleeve marks on the wooden baseboards. Traces cannot be completely removed. So, we'll replace it later. Oil on this iron base. In fact, after a long period of oxidation, the skin has begun to peel. But fortunately, its degree of oxidative corrosion is not serious. Make appropriate repairs. It can return people to their original appearance. By disassembly, we can see clearly. How does the internal air compressor work? Operating principle of these air compressors. The theory is relatively easy to understand. After the drive motor starts, through the belt, the central shaft of the compressor, take a spin, which in turn drives the rear cam. Let the entire piston move continuously in the cylinder. What he is dismantling now is small air tank for air compressor. As the piston is made of fiber, compressed air will be produced. Through this auxiliary flow valve, flows into this fuel tank. In this way, the piston below continues to operate, generate more and more compressed air. All are discharged into this fuel tank. When the pressure inside the fuel tank is too high, will continuously release compressed air to the outside. So let's go back to the video. Currently brother is using the source. Remove the fixing bolt on the drive wheel. Don't look at how small this air compressor is. He has all the parts he should have. It can be said that although sparrows are small, they have full internal organs. Now we proceed to dismantling. Also use a round tip punch. By hitting, separate the center shaft from the drive wheel. Continue disassembly. You can connect this. Piston has been removed. There are generally very few internal parts. A central shaft drives the cam, plus the feeling of connection and piston. These parts make up the entire compressor, the most important driving structure. Now this part of it is just a valve. As more and more air enters the cylinder, the pressure is increasing. This will open the auxiliary flow valve. That's the release valve, thus making this air continuously discharge into this fuel tank. Now, even if it is completely disassembled, the next activity is overall implementation. Remove paint and remove rust. The method used by him. That's also my only solution. Among the many restoration masters, that is the laser cleaning method. So let me talk about the principle of laser cleaning here. The principle of laser cleaning is to use high-frequency, high-energy laser pulses illuminate the surface of the bow and arrow. Causes some oil stains on the surface of the bow and arrow. The rust spots are still painted. Glass absorbs some focal length of laser energy instantly, causing them to evaporate or glass. To achieve effective paint removal and rust removal, compared with traditional chemical rust removal. In terms of physical rust removal, laser rust removal is the same as electrolytic rust removal. It will not have any impact on the surface of the bow. But the only point is after laser rust removal, there will be a laser mark on the middle surface. Now the entire program is completed. Take a look at this baseboard. There were huge cracks in the floor, and there's some shape distortion around it. There are still welding marks on this piece. It needs to be repaired by prior reinforcement. He took out a giant claw needle, then used the vertical method to fall from the sky. Slowly correct the shape. Now I take a few pieces of wood to make a mold. Let it return to its original shape. It's time to solder then. The weld used this time is a 2 guarantee weld. By welding, let's slowly heal this crack. After welding is completed, the solder must be polished. Remove excess solder. Angle grinder is used. Can be seen, its angle grinder has a protective cover. Previously there were several great gods. The angle grinder does not have a protective cover. This is quite a dangerous thing. After rough grinding and welding is completed, I took a hand blender, re-engraved the details. Polish it more carefully, then the whole thing is polished. From this perspective, the effect is quite good. Then next, it's about the appearance of the main body. Some rough marks on it. Polish. Still the same familiar path, familiar formula. After using the tiger ring clamp, I mistakenly took out the knife and polished it for him. In this step, many adults prefer to grind by hand. The best way is to refuse to use this type of electric grinder. If you grind by hand, you will have better control over the details. After we finish polishing everything, then you can apply the original command. That is what we commonly call putty. Shaving powder is actually a relatively delicate skill. Well, I still don't know my family. Wallpaper on the wall cannot be scraped well. There is a saying that if you shave well, your wife will not run away. This is also a special type of work, right? My principles are now dry. Use sand to polish the entire thing. If polished, it can make him smoother overall, and it can improve the responsibility of the painted surface. Then, after removing the paper, it's time to start drawing. The first thing I sprayed was a coat of primer. Then before spraying primer, first use of medicine inside the 3000 glove machine. Shake this air container well. After shaking well, you can start spraying. This is a 2-component gray pen paint. In fact, according to the outerwear he used this time. In terms of ingredients, this primer does not need to be sprayed because of the coating he used. It's a metallic impact paint. Because the computer is essentially a synthetic coating, and after drying, one kind, it feels like vertical lines similar to bump lines. This type of paint does not require painting. Spray primer, then add another machine. It can only be said that the protection is more stable. Now he is mixing this metal. Impact. It was a green metal impactor. Needs dilution. Normally the ratio of solvent and paint is about 1:1. If there are special cases, it can also be made according to different needs. Adjust the ratio. Now we can start spraying the area. Like what I just said, after this paint dries, form a kind of surface. The shape looks like that after impacting the vertebral muscles. This type of paint is relatively popular among us. You can see it from the garden fence. You can often see the appearance of this type of paint. While waiting for the paint to dry, we will do something else. I plan to start working on the entire engine. Turn on the engine. Found at the heel of the propeller. There is a thick layer of oxide between the brushes. This is probably the main reason why he is not working. So now use sand to clean off this oxide layer. Eliminate this type of activity. It reminds me of the past. When I was a child, I used to play with red and white cassette tapes. When the machine is on, take out the cassette and blow in really hard. It won't work if you wipe it off. Just take it out again. Remove the cover. Use an eraser to wipe off all the yellow fingers. Actually, the principle is the same. Just a book. Remove the top oxide layer. So, what about the blowing part? Besides blowing the dust off, it doesn't seem to have any effect. But the action appears to be unified around the world. Just like when we play with paper airplanes. Don't take a breath. This plane doesn't seem to be able to fly far. Every sole is the same. Back to video. He has already painted the motorbike's tires. Now connect the new wire by absorbing sweat. Let it be connected to the motor's rotor. Now after we have completed the soldering, then we can reassemble the engine. This installs to set screws. There are basically no major problems with this entire engine. Just paint that oxide layer off. It will restore its former glory. Next we need to process this wooden baseboard. It seems I just got used to it. This wooden floor needs to be replaced again. But in fact, if the stains on it are not very serious, if severe, you can use oxalic acid. He cleaned it with oxalic acid. It can clean some rust. But like in the video, it is nearly impossible to clean completely, unless it's polished off. But if you polish it, just the way OK wants to handle it. So he had to make a new one. Now drill the hole. Even when the new wooden baseboard is finished, the original cylinder gasket is old. Cannot be used anymore. So now he took out a piece of cork rubber. Use it to make a new gasket. Use the original as a mold. After cutting the image, punch a few positioning holes. Then this brand new pad will. Production has been completed. This is craft paper. Okay, let's use this craft paper. Make to circular pads. Mainly used for air storage chamber. The method is also very simple. Take out the original gasket and use it as a mold. After fastening the shape, punch holes. Then even when the processing is complete, the only thing that needs to be set here is, this is a punch to be a repair master like Auge. Really beautiful. He has a special toolbox. It's filled with hole punches. It looks very cool. All parts have now been repaired. You can start the assembly process. The assembly process is also not difficult. How to dismantle it and install it. Since I recorded the video, I don't have to worry about him pretending wrongly. In fact, the entire process of installing an air compressor. The biggest problem is assurance. How airtight is this cylinder? Now apply a layer of lubricant on it. In the piston. It can also be said that working in it is very smooth. You can see this little thing. In the end, the spring did not break. And it is. A simple fix will remove the invalid fire line. Put it back to use. Because regular springs will be replaced. And like, the spring in the video is slightly distorted. I wonder if he can guarantee his job. Now we will start the engine. The holes for the motor have now been drilled. It is also very simple to assemble. Add some screws. After installing it, then put this banana belt on. The entire main body has been assembled. The last two steps are to add the name tag. One is the brand name of a manufacturing company. The other person is the editor. His own brand can be seen. This video covers it very specifically. The process of restoring this air compressor. Unusable at first. After the general repair is complete. Look, compare before and after recovery. Seeing the difference is huge. And this touches the painted surface, effective after drying. It's very beautiful. Now let's check the usage. So, beautiful. No problem at all. Surely there is a problem with the engine. Now insert the trachea. Use it to spray paint. We will spray this logo. But I don't know if it's strong enough. Air compression pressure is not enough. It made him squirt a little unsteadily, but the effect is still satisfactory. That's the end of this mini air compressor repair video. Thank you all for watching the video. Recycling Station, happy domain.